The atmosphere at Incheon International Airport suddenly turned into a sea of people, as BTS's Jimin and Jungkook were seen preparing to leave South Korea for Texas. The departure of the two BTS members instantly became the center of attention after hundreds of fans and media personnel crowded the airport area even before they arrived. The immense enthusiasm made the atmosphere around the terminal feel much more congested than usual. ARMY's cheers echoed back and forth as news of Jimin and Jungkook's presence began to spread. Several fans were even seen trying to find the best spot to catch a direct glimpse of the two, despite the increasingly limited space to move. The situation grew even more dramatic when Jimin and Jungkook's entourage finally appeared. The shouts instantly grew louder, while cameras from various media outlets were aimed at the two stars. Within seconds, the previously relatively controlled atmosphere turned into a hustle and bustle that forced security officers to work much harder. Security barricades were tightened. Airport staff and the security team were seen forming a special lane so that Jimin and Jungkook could move toward the departure area without being disrupted by the crowd. Every step they took seemed to be followed by the glare of cameras and the voices of fans from all sides. What made the moment even more tense was the density around the barricades. As fans tried to draw closer to bid their final farewells, officers had to remind them several times to stay behind the security line. Not because the atmosphere had turned negative, but because the huge wave of enthusiasm meant that every movement had to be made with extreme caution. Jimin himself appeared to be trying to stay calm amidst the crowd. Meanwhile, Jungkook also looked focused on following the path prepared by security. The two could not linger to greet the crowd for long because their departure schedule to Texas was waiting. The final moments before entering the departure area became one of the most suspenseful parts. As Jimin and Jungkook drew closer to the entrance, the voices of ARMYs grew even louder. As if not wanting that last opportunity to pass by, fans kept chanting both of their names. Security officers then tightened the barricades once more. The lane toward departure had to be completely cleared so the entourage could move safely. Media cameras continued to follow from a distance, capturing every moment before the two members disappeared behind the doors. This departure was not just an ordinary trip. Jimin and Jungkook were known to be heading to the United States to continue a series of BTS activities that have been a major point of interest for global fans. As a result, the journey to Texas immediately generated a new wave of excitement, especially from ARMYs who had been eagerly awaiting their presence in the region. From Texas, excitement regarding BTS's arrival was also beginning to be felt. Conversations about Jimin and Jungkook's arrival spread widely across social media, while local fans began preparing to welcome their schedule of activities. For some ARMYs in Texas, the arrival of the two members was a long-awaited moment. The vast public attention also meant their journey received tighter security detail. Given BTS's status as one of the most recognized groups in the world, every single departure and arrival of theirs has the potential to draw massive crowds. However, behind the density and the shouting, there was one sight that caught the most attention. Jimin and Jungkook kept walking calmly toward departure. They only had a brief moment before truly leaving South Korea, but the support of ARMY seemed to fill nearly every corner of the area they passed. When the two finally entered the restricted area and were no longer visible to fans, the cheers gradually turned into farewell shouts. Cameras kept recording until the very last second, while fans began sharing footage of the departure on social media. Jimin and Jungkook's journey to Texas had officially begun. If the atmosphere at Incheon Airport was already this wild, the next question naturally points to one thing. What kind of welcome awaits them upon their arrival in Texas? Will the crowd of ARMYs there create an equally extraordinary sight? In the midst of the Incheon Airport hustle and bustle, the presence of Jimin and Jungkook in one entourage quickly became one of the most eye-catching moments. As soon as both were seen walking toward the departure lane, media cameras were instantly raised, and fan cheers filled the terminal area once again. Jimin and Jungkook were seen walking along the path prepared by the security team. The overcrowded situation left them with little opportunity to stop or interact directly with fans. However, precisely because the moment was so brief, every little movement of theirs became the center of attention. Several cameras could be seen following their steps from afar. Meanwhile, Fans behind the barricades tried to catch a final glimpse before Jimin and Jungkook entered the restricted area. Shouts of Jimin's name echoed from one side, followed by fans calling out to Jungkook. In an instant, the atmosphere turned boisterous again. The fans seemed determined to ensure their voices were heard before the two members truly left the public area. What caught people's attention was not just their simultaneous presence, but also how the two remained in the same flow of movement toward departure. For fans who have long followed the interactions between Jimin and Jungkook, that simple sight naturally carried its own charm. Video clips of the moment quickly began circulating. A number of armies zoomed in on specific parts of the footage to observe their expressions, gestures, and the moments they walked through the crowd. However, amid the various speculations emerging on social media, one thing was clear. Both were on their way to the United States to continue their series of activities. Jimin was occasionally seen glancing toward the fans, while Jungkook stayed focused on the designated path. With security being so tight, direct interaction was almost impossible. Although the atmosphere at Incheon Airport appeared extremely crowded, the environment created was best described as a positive chaos, filled with enthusiasm. The presence of Jimin and Jungkook transformed an area usually dominated by standard flight activities into the focal point for fans and media. Army shouts echoed from various directions. When Jimin's name was called, some fans immediately responded with cheers, while Jungkook's appearance made camera sounds and shouts ring out even louder. Within a short time, the attention of almost the entire area was directed toward the two BTS members. Among the crowd, army bombs, posters, banners, and phones could be seen filling the fans' hands. Some came not expecting a chance to get close, but simply wanting to see Jimin and Jungkook in person before they left South Korea. The sheer number of fans required security personnel to continuously ensure that the prepared lane remained clear. Every time the crowd surged forward slightly, officers promptly reminded fans to stay behind the barricades. The situation highlighted an interesting reality. The enthusiasm for Jimin and Jungkook came not only from Korean fans. Their presence on this trip to the United States instantly captured the attention of armies from various countries. Media cameras did not stop recording. Even when Jimin and Jungkook took just a few steps, that moment could immediately become a hot topic of conversation on social media. Several fans at the location then shared footage of the airport's atmosphere. Videos showing the crowds, the shouting, and the moment Jimin and Jungkook passed through the security lane began spreading rapidly. What made the atmosphere even more fascinating was the fact that there was no stage or concert at the time. Jimin and Jungkook were simply traveling. Yet, their presence alone was enough to create an atmosphere typically found around a concert venue. For many armies, the opportunity to see their idols from a certain distance before departure was an unforgettable experience. Therefore, even as officers requested the crowd to remain orderly, the positive energy from the fans remained palpably strong. On the other hand, strict security was also a crucial part of the moment. With so many people present, the safety of Jimin, Jungkook, the fans, and airport staff had to remain the top priority. The entourage finally managed to pass through the public area and move toward the departure gate. As the figures of Jimin and Jungkook grew further away, the shouts gradually turned into farewell greetings. In the end, Jimin and Jungkook successfully navigated the crowd and entered the departure area. After repeated shouts from the fans, the two eventually drifted further from public view until the doors to the restricted area slowly closed. For the armies present at Incheon Airport, that moment served as the final chance to see Jimin and Jungkook before their long journey began. Phones remained held high, cameras kept recording, and voices of support continued to ring out even after the two were no longer in sight. However, the departure from Incheon was actually just the beginning of a much larger story. Thousands of kilometers now separate Jimin and Jungkook from the fans waiting in Texas. As the two continue their journey, various recordings of the departure have begun filling social media, drawing the attention of armies worldwide to the trip. It did not take long for discussions regarding their arrival to shift toward the United States. Fans in Texas now have a new reason to prepare. After seeing how wild the atmosphere turned in South Korea, Curiosity regarding their welcome in America has grown even bigger.